Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Savita Didme. I welcome you all in our next lecture of economic zoology, under which animal husbandry and the topic sericulture. So, this is our third lecture of sericulture. In previous two lectures, we have studied the general introduction to sericulture, the classification of the silk moth, different varieties of means different species of silk moth, along with their characteristic feature and images. In our second lecture, we studied the life cycle of mulberry silk moth, in which different larval instars, means 5 larval instars, spinning of the cocoon, even the molting process, and the adult lifespan. So all the things we have studied in detail in our previous lecture. Now in this lecture, we will be studying with the recovery of cocoon, spinning of the cocoon, quality of the cocoon, and marketing of the cocoon. Along with that, the post cocoon processing. Okay, means after harvesting of the cocoon, what is the next procedure that we're also going to study in this? Even precautions, what precautions do we take at the time of rearing of the silk moth, as well as diseases of the silk moth. Okay, so this will be studying in brief in the present lecture. Now let's start with our lecture, that is recovery of the cocoons. Now, how cocoons can be recovered? So, whatever cocoons are there on the tray, or you can say in the shade or on the bed, are suffocated by using some steam, and then the collected. Just a second. Yes, okay. So these are nothing but the cocoons. Okay, so they are collected over a porous tray and placed over boiling water. Okay, why collected over a porous tray? Because the porous tray will permit the ventilation, permit the fresh air. Even when the tray carrying these cocoons will kept on the water, boiling water, so steam will easily pass through the pores of the tray and can reach up to the cocoon as well as chrysalis inside it. Okay, so it is placed in a tray, porous tray, and that tray is later kept on the boiling water. The steam will percolate through the pores of the tray and kill the chrysalis inside the cocoon. Okay, so the treated cocoons can be stocked for a week in a dry place, and it is allowed to air dry in presence of a sunlight, so that the chrysalis which is present inside the cocoon will also get killed, and it will also become dry, as well as the cocoon threads also become dry. So recovery of the cocoon is like this. Then the next is spinning of the cocoon, how the cocoons or how the silk threads they have been recovered from the cocoon is again important step. So while spinning, again a specific period is considered. How the spinning of the cocoon is there? Okay, so when the caterpillar it stop feeding and start, this is just a introduction to, or you can see a flash of cocoon spinning. When a caterpillar, that is the last instar larva, it stop feeding and start to secrete a sticky substance, so you can see, or a saliva from the salivary gland or silk gland. In this condition, the worms should be picked up and transferred. Rather themselves, they goes to the dry places. Okay. Okay, so the worm should be transferred to the spinning trays, and the spinning trays they are kept in the slanting position. Okay, so spinning trays like they are called as a chandrikas. Okay, in the language of the wool industry or sericulture industry, the spinning trays are nothing but the chandrikas. Now these chandrikas are of various types. Okay, so wooden chandrikas are also there, which are made up of the bamboo, and plastic chandrikas are also there, which are having some hexagonal shapes, like it appears very close to the shape of a bee comb, honeycomb, right? So like that, the chandrikas they are after all porous, and they kept in a slanting position on that chandrika. The cocoon, last instar larvae, they get transferred and they start spinning cocoon over the chandrika, or the, you can see, spinning tray. So within 2 to 3 days, the spinning is over and the cocoon is formed completely. And this is then last phase of the rearing of the silk moth. Okay, so that those cocoons which are already completely spun within 2 to 3 days, these cocoons are then recovered and kept on the dry, porous tree. Okay, then quality of the cocoon. How we can decide the cocoons are best quality, or how we can get the best quality cocoons? Any guesses? Okay, so if you remember one point that we studied in the life cycle, let's go back for a second. Yes, this is the adult, right? Adults, are they feeding or non-feeding stages? Adults are the non-feeding stages, right? So whatever quality of a cocoon is there, that is depend on what? Health of the adult, or it is depend on the health of the leaves? Yes, it is depend on totally health of the leaves. Okay, if the leaves they are more nourished, okay, very well developed, then the larvae will be of the good quality. Larvae will be healthy one, and such a healthy larvae will going to spin a good quality cocoon. Okay, so quality of a cocoon is totally depend on the leaves. Okay, it is totally depend on the leaves. Even length of the filament, even reeling ability and splitting of the fibers, silken fibers from the cocoon is again important factor in this case. Now after that, marketing of the cocoons. We often say that the sericulture industry or sericulture business is very profitable and anybody can do it. But um, again, there is a something in the mind of listeners, that whether it has a constant market value, or whether there is any kind of profit will get when we sell the cocoons, right? So let me tell you, the prices of the cocoons, they are constant in a particular season. See, right now, if you talk about this month, current month, that is September. So yesterday I just checked the bivoltine cocoons. They are sold by the price of 350 rupees per kg. Okay, in the Hyderabad. So what it means? It means that the prices, they are going to be monitored, going to be governed by the government. Okay, so government has a check on the price, market value of the cocoon. So there is no need to worry about it. No doubt, sometimes there will be slight fluctuation in the market that we should consider. Right? Now let's move ahead and see what is a post cocoon processing. Post cocoon processing are nothing but methods of obtaining silk thread from cocoon. Okay, methods of obtaining silk thread from cocoon is said to be post cocoon processing, and it includes two main stages, that is stapling and reeling. Okay, now let's focus on the stapling. Stapling is what basically? It is the process of killing the cocoons in. Okay, so it is a process of killing the cocoons. It's termed as the stapling. Now it can be achieved. All right. Let's focus here. Okay, whatever these are, they are the cocoons, and these are broken cocoons, right? Through which the adult, that is imago, has been combed out. Okay, fly out. All right. Now this happened why? Because these cocoons are not processed. These cocoons are not killed. They are not become dead. Okay, so these cocoons, they are live cocoons without any treatment. After recovery of these cocoons, there is no further treatment given to them. So that's why these cocoons, inside them, whatever pupa was developing, that develops into adult, and adult emerges out. Okay, but in the business, that is sericulture industry, or in the wool industry business, this is prohibited. So while um, stifling, what is that? killing of the cocoon or killing of the crystalline is important, and it is achieved by either sun drying. Okay, whatever cocoons are there, 7 to 8 days old cocoons which are sun dried for 3 to 4 days or even more. Even they are sometimes treated with some kind of acids, or they are thrown into the boiling water, or some kind of steaming is also there, or sometimes fumigation is also applied to kill the crystallines present inside it. Okay, so recovery methods, or you can say stifling methods, are variable, but it is an important step so as to get the crystallis, or you can say pupa, to be killed inside the cocoon. And if it is get killed inside the cocoon, it will not going to break the cocoon and cannot come out. So ultimately whatever your cocoon is there, that cocoon will remain intact. Okay, it will remain intact, and such a intact cocoon only get market value. Remember, if the cocoons they are broken, means the threads, whatever threads are present in that portion, they are broken, right? And such a broken cocoons have a very least market value. They are not even sold in the market properly. So as to get the profit, we have to, or for the reeling industries, the cocoon should be killed. Okay, now the next one is reeling and spinning. Okay, so the process of removing the threads from the killed cocoon is called as reeling. What is that? The process of removing the threads from the killed cocoon is called as reeling, and 4 to 5 free ends of the thread of these cocoons are passed through eyelets and then guided to twist into one thread and wound around a large wheel, and from which it is transferred to a spool. Thus, the silk obtained on the spool is called as a raw silk. So, whatever silk obtained after boiling the cocoon into the hot water, and then 4 to 5 threads are captured from each cocoon, they are reeled, or you can say, yes, they are spin around on a large wheel, and then it is called as a raw silk, right? So whatever waste outer layer or damaged cocoons and threads are separated, these are called as a spun silk. SPUN, spun silk, right? So the raw silk is further boiled, stretched. Okay. The raw silk, which is directly recovered from the silken cocoon, is not getting that much value, right? So further again, it is important to process, right? So what is the further processing? Raw silk is further boiled, stretched, and purified by acid or by fermentation, and then carefully washed over again and again. Okay, so they are boiled again, stretched, purified by the acid or by fermentation, and then carefully washed again and again to bring about well-known lusters. Okay. Okay. Come to the precautions. What precautions do we take while processing or while rearing of the silk moth? So the first is the cleanliness and hygiene. So cleanliness and hygiene is again very important factor while rearing of the silk moth. When we feed them, when we give them the plant material, that is plant leaves. Okay. So while handling them, okay, so cleanliness is important. Otherwise, what will happen? The larvae will suffer from number of diseases, bacterial, viral diseases, right? And that ultimately damages the business or damages the cocoons totally, even larvae also. So cleanliness and hygiene is again very important in the rearing or while rearing of the silkworms. So the next is incubation of eggs. Incubation of eggs is playing a very important role in the rearing process. Why? Why it is playing very important role? While incubation, if you rear eggs without incubation, what will happen? What will happen? The eggs without incubation can hatch at any time. Okay, some of them can hatch within 4 to 5 days, some of them 6 to 7 days, 9 to 10 days, 15, like that. The hatching period cannot be controlled without incubation. So if you incubate the eggs, the hatching period will be same. The eggs will hatch on the same day. Okay, so incubation playing very important role for the hatching purpose. And if maximum eggs, or you can say a lot of eggs, they hatch on the same day, so their developmental stages will be performed further on the same way, and whatever cocoon formation will be on the same day. And ultimately we can recover the cocoons on the same day, right? On the same day. What it means here? It means all the cocoons will form on the same day, on a single day, and we can recover them, we can collect them on the single day. That means the same day. Okay. All right. Now, availability of the food plants. While going for the rearing process, one should confirm that sufficient food plants they are available. If the mulberry leaves they are not considered to be sufficient, then one should not go for the rearing. Otherwise, what will happen? As you know, the larvae, they are voracious feeder, right? Larvae, they are voracious feeder. Day and night they keep on eating, they keep on eating, just keep on eating. And if no food plant is available, or you can say if there is a break in the food plant, or there is a break in the feeding, that ultimately causes death of the cocoon, or death of the larvae, or that ultimately gives a poor quality yield, means a poor quality cocoons. Do we want them? Is this the aim of a sericulture industry? No, this is not at all the aim of sericulture industry. Rather, good quality of the cocoons and larger sized and heavier cocoons we can get is the basic aim of the sericulture industry. And so as to get this, what we need to have? We need to have sufficient quantity as well as quality of the food plants available over there. Even the moisture of the food plant, or moisture of the leaves, is again playing important role. So moistened, sufficiently moistened leaves should be fed to the worms, right? Now the next is overcrowding. Always avoid overcrowding. Okay, so otherwise what will happen? They will destroy themselves, right? So overcrowding is not be there, it is always prevented. Then constant inspection is required, whether the larvae they are suffering from some kind of a diseases, whether they are become brittle, their skin is become brittle, or some kind of spots develop, or dryness is there, or some kind of a blackish spots are there, or whether they are showing some kind of a wriggling movement, or any other such a unusual feature is always been monitored by the person or by the rearer, so that if some kind of infection is there, then that will be monitored in the early cases and further loss will be prevented. Otherwise, that can cause heavy loss to the sericulture industry or silk rearing process, right? Then no disturbance during molting. Okay, molting is what? What is a molting? Molting is what? Shedding of the old cuticle by the larvae, and this molting means the shedding of the old cuticle is said to be, or it is called as a molting. Why it is required? Why it is needed? It is needed so that the larvae can grow further. Larvae can become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger in size, right? Whatever cuticle is there, larval skin is there, that larval cuticle becomes a limiting factor. It grows from this to this, you can see it grows from this to this, but after this it has to shed its old cuticle, it has to shed its old skin. Okay, and when it will shed its old skin, then and then only it can able to grow further, otherwise not. So molting is again very important. And while molting appears when it occurs at every 6 to 7 days of the larval instar, and this is again very important. While molting, if disturbance is there, then what? That can causes even a death of a larvae, or even it going to disturb the normal processing or normal development of the larvae. So in that case again we'll get less yield, cocoons will be very less, right? So molting is again important. No disturbance should be there while at the time of molting. Okay, casting of the cuticle. Go ahead, let's see diseases of the silkworm. So silkworms, a variety of diseases are associated with the larvae of a silk moth, right? And these enemies are not only kill the larvae but spoil forthcoming generations also. And some of them are protozoan diseases, viral, as well as few are the fungal members which causes diseases in the silkworm. Okay, even the first one is pebrine. So this pebrine is nothing but a protozoan disease, and in this case the sweep out entire industry. This pebrine or protozoan disease can sweep out entire industry, and the larvae become pale yellow, reduces in size, and finally reduces the yield. So that causes a heavy loss to the sericulture industry. Then the second one is the grasserie. In this case, the larval skin become rough and some kind of a bristles they appears over the larval skin. Okay, if the larval skin is appears to be rough and some spots or you can say bubbles appears over it, then it means it is suffering from the grasserie, and the saliva becomes very thick and yield is again minimized. The quality and quantity of the cocoon is again going to be reduced. So that again is hazardous to the sericulture industry. Then the flachere, this is caused due to the indigestion when the larvae eat a lot because it is a voracious feeder, and if some indigestion is up there, digestion cannot go properly, then at that time this flachere disease occurs, and in this case the worms become thin, inactive, and regenerate occasionally. So though the worms are eating but their size is somewhere affected, so this is nothing but the flachere disease. Then muscardine disease. In this muscardine disease, no doubt it is caused due to a fungus. It is a fungal disease, right? And mortality occurs due to heavy rain and unhygienic condition in the rainy season especially. Remember, the hygienic condition is very important. Why? Because of the unhygienic condition, the muscardine, which is a mortality related, death related disease, occurs in the silk moth, occurs amongst the silk moth. So as to avoid this, hygiene is very important. Okay, and is especially in the rainy season the muscardine appearance is quite high. Okay, so the worms they dies after this disease. So these are the few diseases which have been observed in the silkworms, and how we can avoid them, how we can prevent them. So these diseases can be prevented by taking certain precautions like this: cleanliness, hygiene, incubation, availability of food plant, overcrowding, constant inspection, and no disturbance during the molting. These are some of the precautions which one considers so as to minimize the loss in the business, as well as to get the profit, to earn the profit from this sericulture industry. Few precautions we should consider, right? Yes. Thank you so much.